Pick the most valuable.
Cover, top, kind of. How'd you acquire this? Family? Okay. We've got all different types of embroidery, all different types of textiles, materials, called a crazy quilt. They're very popular at the latter part of the 1800s. Okay, it's not quilted. It has some interesting people on it. I thought I saw Annie Oakley. Where was that woman? Well, here. I don't know, I took a quick look at some of them. So, some Fracon ribbons of famous people which were popular after 1875. This piece dates probably, again, to the late 1800s, early 1900s. The whole quilts are usually somewhere around $1,000. Your quilt pieced together, which could be quilted. This particular piece, I would put a value on this. Rather rare, with some of these elements here on it. I would probably put, like, Buckingham Day here of 1884. Value on this quilt, well, this quilt cover, it's not a quilt technically until you quilt it. Value on that piece, I would say about $300. Quilted, they're worth a lot more. If I were to compare that $300 crazy quilt to Laura's quilt, how'd you acquire your quilt, Laura? Okay, so we know it dates to 1860s. This is very true of many quilts. Civil War era quilts, where first of all, soldiers could actually be sent to war with a quilt from home. If they died on the battlefield, they would be wrapped in that quilt. If they were wounded on the battlefield, they would be wrapped and sent to a hospital, I'll use it in quotes, right, in those quilts. They are very, very popular. They are very sought after, and I have seen many in my years of appraising. I have seen some that have come out of areas in Ohio, Pennsylvania, Virginia, that neck of the woods, where they could document, as you have, where the quilts were, who owned them, who was with them, basically. Some of those quilts, I remember one quilt which was from a hospital of a wounded soldier, and all over the quilt was writing that other soldiers in that same Civil War time hospital saying, we're going to get the Confederacy, keep going, boy. I mean, it was amazing what was written on some of them, documenting where the quilts were, from Appomattox to other parts to Gettysburg. This particular piece and the documentation that you have makes this quilt worth about $7,500. How much did you pay for it? Mother paid $150 with the documentation a long time ago. In 1974, the other elements of the quilt, the blood stains, of course, can be documented now with science, but we don't need that. What you also want to look for is the quality of the quilt, consistency of stitchery, consistency of panel, and you want to make sure with a quilt of this age, it is all deteriorated or all faded at the same rate. Beautiful. One more quilt. This one belongs to Shannon. Individual quilt squares, each signed by the quilter, made in 1938. Here's a couple of things that show you a circa 1940s quilt. The textile being used is oftentimes, of course, these printed textiles that you'll see. Brighter colors you're going to see in the early years of the 20th century. Sometimes you'll see something like Sunbonnet Sue. In this particular case, it's tulips, and they are each one individually marked, each square, by who quilted it, correct? Where are you? Hi, hon. How'd you acquire it?
Very, very close.
Very close to you. So in beautiful condition from the 40s, a gorgeous piece, very bold. Tulips are the symbol of prosperity. So the idea of the quilt to keep one warm, to keep the house warm, to have a prosperous life. That's what you're looking at here. Very nice. It's a nice example as well. Value on it about $300. So very nice. To whom does this belong? Is that yours, Holly? Hi, honey. How did you acquire that? Look what you did. You took out your hair and you got all these nice little waves. Wow, you're a lucky girl. You don't even have to go to the salon, Holly. Man, there are hairdressers all over Dayton saying, oh yeah, it's Holly. She has good hair. Okay. How did you acquire this rondell? So you bought this in China. What made you buy it?
My mother said it was a blind stitch.
Your mother said it was a blind stitch, like the invisible stitch?
Like it would make people go blind when they did it.
Yes, yes, that's true. This particular piece is very, very delicate and also difficult to do. So basically it's sometimes called the invisible or the invisible stitch, or some people call it the blind stitch, which basically is very, very difficult to do. The technique is trained, only certain artisans, certain textile artists are trained to do it, and a lot of people don't want to do it, but it's very difficult on the eyes, but it's very highly sought after in Asia. So a rondell like this, which is quite nice, which can be used for either, you could put it in a frame or you can put it on a sideboard. People use it for all different reasons, but you'll notice that multiple figures is also very rare. Usually these are floral. So when you start to have figures, it's worth a little bit more. These pieces, this one dates anytime to the late 19th, early 20th century. I would put it before 1900 even. So the late 19th century would be the date on this, but the tradition dates all the way back, oh my gosh, way into the 1400s. Value on this piece, anywhere between about $800 to $1,200. I would probably put it, because of condition, closer to $800. Very nice, very nice. I've got some loss areas on the piece. You can see the hole here, which I won't make bigger. You can see that hole. You can see that it's beautifully stitched. Something called the forbidden stitch. It's very beautiful. You can see, of course, the iconography of the fierce dragons. The fierce dragons usually indicate that the family is of some kind of power. So whether that's wealth and power. The piece is original, it is all silk. It looks like it dates to the 19th century, whereas the Butterfields are in New England, the 18th century, correct?
Correct.
So can it be later? Can it be the 19th century in your family history?
Could be.
Value on that piece is about $150 to $250 retail. If you move it out of the family, or you don't hand it down, it decreases value because it loses what's called provenance, from the French to prove it. So your uncle is in Japan, World War II, right? They look comfy. That's the story? Well, it seems like a good story. They're comfy. What, honey? They won't fit me either. But that's all right. They're very nicely made. They've been folded a long, long time. This is why I always tell you, every 6 months I want you to refold those quilts. Every 6 months, refold those pieces, because the creases get in them and it's hard to get them out. The box is beautiful too. Yeah, the Asians are wonderful with this. They really are so meticulous, clean, beautiful. It's a very nice set. From the 1940s, in this original box for years, 75 years. You just grabbed it on the way out the door and then you drove 3 hours. God, oh, you're nice to say I'm worth it. You're worth it. Thank you so much. You want to know what you're looking at so you make a good decision, right? And then you want to know, where do I sell it so I can make the money back, and then some. Well, I'm glad to help you. This piece is worth about $100 with the box. It's nice. I do think that now with vintage couture and all these sites about vintage couture, you could even go as high as $125 on it. Nice. This was passed down from your great-great-grandmother?
Yes.
Or your second great-grandmother?
Same thing.
You're saying it's very raggedy.
It is. It's terrible.
It's terrible. It's terribly raggedy. It's like Ann and Andy, so raggedy. Right?
Oh, they're better than that.
Better than Raggedy Ann and Andy?
No, that's worse.
That's worse. Okay. So we've got some names here, right? Made by S, is it Regal?
Simon Regal.
Germantown Township for
Melinda Zirkle.
Melinda Zirkle. And then there's a Ohio.
1854.
1854. It's kind of hard to read, but it's not in terrible shape.
There's another block.
There's another block that's better.
It's about the same.
It's over here.
Yeah.
It's a little better. It's not better by much. Okay. And here's some of the raggedy parts, like where the little hole. So it's been loved, used, right? Well, what else is it for? It's for use, right? How big is it? Based on our beds, king bed, queen bed, how big?
At least a queen.
At least a queen, so pretty big. Okay. These particular pieces are done on a loom, right? Middle part of the 19th century, middle 1800s, right? And this particular piece is in your family history.
Yes.
Okay, so we can trace it back to your great-great-grandmother.
Yes.
Okay. How did it come down to you and where has it been stored? Why do I care about textile and storage? Here's the deal with textile and storage. If you don't store it right, you're not going to have it. You know who's going to have it? The bugs. The bugs are going to get it. The bugs, the fleas, the moths, those people, they're going to get it. Okay? So, this particular piece, where has it been stored? In a trunk of a car?
No.
Oh, trunk of like a trunk in a house, like a storage trunk.
Yes.
Oh, like cedar chest / storage trunk.
Probably.
Got it. Okay.
Because it's got stains.
It's got stains from the trunk, which was wooden.
Right.
All right. Typically, in good condition, one this big would range anywhere between $800 to $1,200. Yours is not in good condition. Yours is in the kind of condition that I haven't been in a long, 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 long time. It's in not good condition.
Right.
I wouldn't even say it's in fair condition, and most of the time I go, it's in fair condition, you know, you're from 1854, you'd be in lousy shape too, but this is even worse than that. So I'd go poor condition. And you know how it goes pristine, mint, excellent, very good, good, fair, poor, and forget it. Forget it, I added, you know. So value on this piece, I would say $200 in this condition.
Okay.
Versus $1,200 if it were kept in good condition.
Right.
Now, it's a piece of family heirloom, right? Here's some of the things people do. I'm not advocating them, but here's what I've seen. And I've seen a lot. In-home appraisals, people when they send me appraisal, objects for appraisal with our online appraisal service, the priority service, whatever it is, people do all different things. So some people would say, well, I can't use it as a blanket. Maybe I could cut away some of those areas and frame up these areas as keepsakes. People do that with textiles. Not advocating it, but you could. Then there are the people who say, well, you know what? I'm going to hang it and make it a wall hanging. I'm going to do that. That puts undue stress on the fabric, so you may want to do that. Oh, I'm going to put it in the agitator cycle of the washing machine because I could get it clean because we have all kinds of great cleaners now. You don't want to do that. There are ways to actually clean these, but the methods are those that are advocated by American textile museums all over the country, so you want to be careful. If you want to display it the way museums would, when I was in museums would display something like this by actually sweep sewing it to a panel, all acid-free, and then hang the panel up. But museums would only have a piece like this on display for about 3 months out of the year. They don't have it on the wall forever the way we put something, hang something up, and then just leave it there. So you have to be aware of that. In that condition, which is poor, about $200. Thanks for bringing it in.